By the end of the 20th century, the United States had firmly established itself as a world leader in the field of combat aviation. And the appearance of such aircraft as the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor fighters or the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit stealth bombers seemed like a true technological miracle that no country could oppose. At that time, China was just beginning the transition from Soviet-style aircraft to the development of its own. But over the past decades, the situation has changed radically. Today, in the skies over China, one can increasingly see aircraft that look like American ones, and an alarming line regarding equal capabilities is already flashed across intelligence reports. So are Chinese developments full-fledged analogues of U.S. military aviation? Or are these just copies created without a well-thought-out technological base? And we'll start with the most expensive and ambitious project of our time, the Next Generation Air Dominance Program. As we recently learned, it was within this framework that Boeing won a contract from competitors Lockheed and Northrop to supply a new American sixth-generation fighter for the U.S. Air Force. The aircraft was designated Mission Design Series F-47. According to the U.S. President, the experimental version of the F-47 has been flying in secret for almost 5 years, which is consistent with a U.S. Air Force spokesman's 2020 statement that the NGAD prototype had already begun flight testing. The F-47, also known as the Penetrating Counter-Air, will soon replace Lockheed Martin's current fleet of F-22 Raptors and will not just be a fighter, but literally the central brain of an entire family of systems supported by collaborative combat aircraft drones, manned, unmanned teaming. The cost of the new generation will be lower than that of the Raptor, so the service has serious intentions to purchase a fleet of 200 to 300 of these devices to replace the slightly more than 180 F-22s it currently has. As expected, the aircraft will be tailless with many additional stealth characteristics that'll help it better hide from keen enemy radars, and the canards visible in the latest renderings will improve the aerodynamic characteristics of the device. The fighter will feature powerful next-generation adaptive propulsion engines with thrust ranging from 35,000 to 40,000 pound-feet, which will allow it to maintain a maximum speed of more than Mach 2 with an operating range of more than 1,500 miles. The F-47 will be available in both manned and unmanned versions with a flexible technology stack customizable depending on the needs of the assigned mission. Its main weapons will be hypersonic missiles, swarming drones, and in the future even combat lasers, which American giants such as Lockheed are already integrating into U.S. fighters. The Chinese sixth-generation fighter project, in turn, was and remains even more closed and meager in details compared to its American counterpart. However, footage of test flights with the alleged Chengdu J-36 and Shenyang J-50 fighters over the city of Chengdu, Sichuan province in December of this year caused the world media to literally seethe with the most daring assumptions. At a minimum, we saw that the future Chinese fighter also received a tri-jet tailless flying wing design, and on the front of the fuselage there were numbers 36, based on which it was given the preliminary name J-36. After reviewing videos circulating online, analysts suggested that Chengdu was the manufacturer of the heavier J-36 aircraft, while Shenyang was most likely responsible for the lighter J-50, which was also seen in December 2024. But what's more interesting is whether they're part of one program to create a new generation fighter or two different programs developing in parallel. According to some reports, the J-36 will receive either a domestic WS-15 engine or a completely new one, which the Celestial Empire is not yet publicly announced. As for the operating range, it's expected to be 1,200 miles, which is slightly more modest than the American NGAD. The key difference between U.S. and Chinese projects may be the degree of network integration. The U.S. fighters being built as an element of the global C3ISR, command, control, communications, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance system, being a node in a huge distributed data network. Chinese doctrine is still lagging behind in this area, focusing on integration within tactical formations without global coverage. So at this stage, NGAD looks more ambitious and technologically rich. Although the Chinese fighter promises to achieve high stealth as well as better flight characteristics, in the next decade it's unlikely to be able to replicate the full range of capabilities that the United States has built into its air dominance system. Another important milestone in the development of multi-mission combat vehicles for the U.S. Air Force and Navy was the fifth-generation F-35 Lightning II fighter from Lockheed Martin, which in 2022 marked the round figure of 1,000 assembled airframes. And due to its amazing ability to fit into any task and attack the enemy with lightning speed, this fighter has become the most desired product for many U.S. allies. The F-35's creators placed an emphasis on stealth, advanced avionics, and sensor fusion, giving it a high level of situational awareness and an impressive range to engage targets. One of the main challenges for the Lockheed team in developing Lightning II was the mission system software. Even the penultimate Block 3F update already contained over 8.6 million lines of code. Regarding the most recent Block 4, this required an increased bleed air cooling capacity by 50% for Integration Technology Refresh 3 avionics package, consisting of a new display, main processor, and memory modules to support increased processing requirements, as well as engine improvements. In the future, it'll also operate in conjunction with NGAD and CCA drones, while Lockheed is working on its 5th Gen Plus, aiming to give the F-35 80% of the functionality of the future F-47 from Boeing for 50% of the cost of the latter. Meanwhile, the Chinese J-35, also known as the J-31 and FC-31, represents an attempt by the Celestial Empire to create a competitive multi-mission stealth vehicle capable of not only destroying air targets, but also striking enemy ground targets. Its KLJ-7A radar, created by the Nanjing Research Institute of Electronics Technology, is an analog of the American AN APG-81 installed in the F-35, and the helmet-mounted display and sight system is comparable to the Striker produced by the British BAE Systems. In September of 2023, the PRC announced the first flight of the land-based version originally created for the J-35 aircraft carriers, designation J-35A, with a different wing and landing gear design. Like its brainchild, Chengdu J-20, Shenyang J-35 was also not without its scandals. In 2013, Defense Acquisitions Chief Frank Kendall told the Senate that data stolen by Chinese hackers regarding the F-35 and the Joint Strike Fighter program helped America's competitors speed up their own fifth-generation fighter projects. It's not hard to miss the similarities between the J-35 and F-35, given the similarity of their dimensions, functionality, and wing-tail configuration. However, although the J-35 uses a low-angle design with a long nose to minimize its radar footprint, its technology is at least several years behind the F-35. After all, the Chinese device still depends on traditional radars and does not have the same advanced sensor integration as the Lightning II, which is why the J-35's strike capabilities are noticeably limited compared to the American fighter. Not to mention the real combat experience that the F-35 received in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. So far, the J-35's experience is limited only to its testing. Speaking of experience, over its career, the first stealth fighter, the F-22 Raptor, became not only a generational rock star, but also one of the United States' best-kept military secrets. It's not for nothing that its export was prohibited by federal law in order to protect secret technologies. The shape of this device is the quintessence of stealth and aerodynamics thought out to the smallest detail. The planform and panel edges are aligned, and the surfaces have a continuous curvature to minimize radar cross-section, and its two Pratt & Whitney F-119 PW100 turbofan engines with afterburners are capable of producing more thrust than any modern fighter engine, about 35,000 pounds each, allowing for super cruise speeds without the need for afterburners. Recently, the Raptor's become a testing ground for technologies that the U.S. Air Force intends to introduce into sixth-generation fighters. So back in 2021, we first saw it with a strange mirror metal coating that occupies most of the outer skin, and in the list of fresh updates for the F-22, we noticed not only the integration of new sensors and antennas, but also fresh weapons. Air-to-air missiles with a maximum speed of Mach 5, the AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, JATM, developed by Lockheed. Today, the improved F-22 Block 30-35 remains one of the U.S. Air Force's top priorities and will be constantly updated, even despite the ongoing work on NGAD. China's response to the F-22 was the Chengdu J-20, also called Mighty Dragon, a twin-engine stealth fighter that made China the second country in the world to not only develop, but also field its own production stealth aircraft. It received an extended fuselage, forward-swept wings, and canards, increasing its maneuverability and mobility, but at the same time reducing its stealth. Recently, information was leaked to the media that there was a 95% chance of success on China's part in simulating a battle with the F-22. The only nuance was that the PRC used one J-20 fighter and 3 UAVs operating in a group, while the real chances of success of Mighty Dragon one-on-one against Raptor were estimated at less than 10%. Not to mention that in the coming years, the F-22 will also be able to work in tandem with loyal wingman CCA drones. The PRC fighter uses 4 long-range PL-15 missiles and 2 short-range PL-10 missiles as weapons. The F-22 carries 6 AIM-120 medium-range missiles and 2 more AIM-9 short-range missiles, and has a 20mm M61A2 cannon with 480 rounds. And as the experience of F-4 Phantom pilots in Vietnam shows, air battles often end within range of guns that the J-20 simply does not have. A clear advantage of the J-20 could have been a range of over 1,200 miles if Lockheed Martin had not taken the trouble to develop stealth fuel tanks for the F-22, bringing the fighter's operating range to 1,600 miles. Additionally, let's not forget that until its Chinese counterpart receives the long-awaited domestic WS-15 engines, it still has a lot of homework to do in order to at least approach the efficiency of the F-22, which is capable of maintaining super cruising speed without afterburners. Fighters are, of course, good, but they cannot replace our good old bombers. The United States once shocked the whole world with the appearance of the secret stealth triangle B-2 Spirit. It cost taxpayers an insane $2.13 billion, but earned every penny during NATO operations in Yugoslavia, the wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya, flying 30-plus hours without refueling and destroying enemy targets with surgical precision. The Spirit's weapons bays can hold up to 60,000 pounds of ordnance, and for nuclear missions, it can be loaded with 16 B-61-7s ranging from 10 to 360 kilotons. The slightly more powerful 400-kiloton B-61-11, or the terrifying 1.2 megaton B-81-3. And despite the rapid replacement by the newest Northrop B21 Raider bombers, not a single existing B-2 Spirit was written off. Up until 2021, the B-21 Raider followed in the footsteps of its ancestor. Many aspects of the Special Access Program were strictly classified, although some information about the upcoming new generation bomber became known back in 2015. Overall, the shape of the stealth bomber has not undergone any fundamental changes visually, but it lacks the familiar sawtooth trailing edge of the Spirit, which is why the Raider looks even better optimized for high altitude, highly efficient flight, and almost zero radar signature no matter which way you look at it. Despite its slightly smaller dimensions, the model was given a large range without refueling, so that the B-21 felt as free as possible when penetrating enemy anti-access area denial defenses, which could be thousands of miles away from the target area. One of the most important steps towards such a range was reducing the number of engines from 4, as in the Spirit ancestor, to 2, which will have a positive effect on fuel economy. And to consolidate its success, in addition to the usual nuclear projectiles, the new product will almost certainly be armed with stealthy AGM-181 long-range standoff cruise missiles with a nuclear warhead. Furthermore, the U.S. Air Force has repeatedly mentioned the integration of future munitions into the B-21, clearly hinting at directed energy weapons and/or hypersuck projectiles. And, well, where would we be without artificial intelligence interacting with the same CCA? After all, Raider will become a full member of the NGAD family of systems, working together with the latest fighters and other aircraft in the U.S. Air Force fleet. The PRC's response was also not long in coming. We're talking about the Xi'an H-20, the People's Liberation Army Air Force's subsonic stealth bomber, which will be the first dedicated strategic bomber developed by China. Like the B-21 Raider, the Chinese aircraft is designed as a flying wing with an emphasis on stealth and aims for the highest possible range without refueling. Over 6,200 miles to cover the Western Pacific and the Second Island chain. Moreover, the latter includes not only the area of the Pacific Ocean to the west of the border, passing between Japan and eastern Indonesia, but also the territory of the United States, Guam. But given the operating range of even the older B-2 Spirit at 6,900 miles, it's unlikely that the United States is aiming for performance below 6,000 miles in the new B-21 Raider. By March of 2024, the Chinese bomber had not yet completed its first flight, while the B-21 went on its first test flight back in November 2023. And by September of 2024, the U.S. Air Force had not one, but 3 bombers ready to fly. Looking at China's results, it'd be foolish to deny that the country's making impressive strides in aircraft manufacturing, but in terms of combat experience and technological maturity of the Chinese aircraft, there's still a very long way to go to reach the level of American combat aircraft. What do you think? Will the U.S. and Chinese devices we mentioned be comparable in power already in the 2030s? Or are these two different powerhouses that are not destined to measure their strength? Share your guesses in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell for more content like today's. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.